Back in August of 2021, part of Summerpalooza 3, I reviewed the first temple from Amphibia, and with the second temple and the third temple being part of the second half of Season 2, it's time to talk about one of the episodes, which is the second temple, which is mostly a snow episode, and even though I'm not reviewing any snow material when it comes to episodes involving around snow, and the first season episode that did center around snow did factor in the elements of snow, you have to admit that this episode is mostly better when it comes to a story progression standpoint. The characters arrive to the Arctic of Amphibia where they need to find the second stone that is located in a temple that they can't find in sight. They encountered Viriana, who Anne had a history with, and this leads to them trying to find the second temple, but at the same time, due to what they're going through when it comes to the obstacles being a lot more complicated and just trying to make things right for the group, it really shows how distant it is between Anne and Viriana, who is willing to help out them trying to find the second stone, but this only leads to Anne messing things up a lot more to the point that it gets a lot more complicated. I really feel like that going back into this episode, I really expected to be an actual temple, but looking back at this episode, especially after watching the entire series as a whole, this episode is really connected to the finale, and it's not because of one of the stones being in place. It's mainly the fact that the stone that they're looking for is blue, which is the color that Anne is in the finale of this season, and him and her turning into Super Saiyan Blue in the following season. When it comes to her trust towards Viriana, with her almost making the same mistake as one of the strangers from season 1 that took the music box that led to so much issues of Anne and Sprig trying to win it back. You know, honestly, it's one thing that she's messing things up when it comes to what is going on in front of her when it comes to the Arctic itself, but at the same time, when it comes to her handing the music box towards people, especially Viriana, she really wants to protect the box at all costs because she, like Marcy and Sasha, really want to get home. And considering that this is around the time where Sasha is still a toxic friend, and this is before the reveal of Marcy's true intentions, Anne literally wants to head home as quickly as possible, especially with the dangers that she and the others are going through. Granted, she's mostly causing all of this, but at the same time, when it comes to Viriana's personality, even though that she can be a little truthful by expressing of how much Anne is a liar and mostly steal things, which she did steal the music box, they really knew how to set up the climax, especially since that it's a trial the entire time for Anne when it comes to the entire trial being the second temple. Granted, I was honestly hoping that the second temple was an ice temple, considering that the first temple episode and the third temple episode did center around the characters going inside of a temple. But if it wasn't for the entire stone not being charged up in the way that it's been executed when it comes to Viriana having the gem, having the stone gaining charged, then I'm pretty sure that the rest of the series wouldn't have the continuation of Anne's calamity powers. Let me just say this right now that looking back at this episode and the fact that Anne took the stone that wasn't being charged 100%, and this also leads to them not going home entirely, I'm pretty sure that it has something to do with Anne having Calamity powers in the finale of this season, and it continues that tradition in season 3. The progression of Anne's character throughout the entire series really made me see that this episode was really important in comparison to the first Temple episode and maybe the third Temple episode. Granted, I might consider on reviewing the third Temple whenever I get the chance, but every time I think about this episode, where they're looking for the Blue Stone, honestly, this episode is a lot more important than how people thought it would be upon watching the episode for the first time. With Viriana being a lot more better than how she was back then, really sums up a lot that she does contribute something when it comes to the Calamity Stones. And with this stone being really integral to Anne's character, and all honestly, she's probably not responsible for the Calamity powers that Anne gets, but at the same time, it does showcase that if she does meet Anne again in the future, despite not remembering what ends up happening in the third season, I'm pretty sure that it's honestly a way of showcasing that these characters could work together, but then again, I don't remember a lot. I'm just saying, these two characters obviously don't get along, and then when they ended up getting along towards the end, it's somewhat bound for these characters to do something together in the third season, considering that there is a season 3 episode where a character from season 1 or 2 that Anne has issues with, or maybe one of the characters had issues with, that they end up working together. But then again, that's mainly the fact of what is happening in Amphibia in the second half of the third season. So, in all honesty, this episode is one of my favorites when it comes to the season, and I really feel like it got a lot more important when it came to the continuation of the music box in the finale of this season, and possibly Anne's Calamity powers. I'm planning on reviewing the third Temple, hopefully for this year since we're getting started. As far as I'm concerned, there are so many elements I'm witnessing from this show, unless if I'm one of the newer people who didn't figure out these elements upon the first binge watch. But then again, that happens a lot whenever I take my time with my binge watch with these shows. I'm giving this episode an 8 out of 10.